What's up, you guys? How are you? I'm actually testing out some new equipment today. Trying to get this live stream all going. I want to start live streaming my tournaments and live streaming a bunch of other stuff. So I've really got this thing rigged out nice. I'm just trying to get all the bugs worked out before a tournament next weekend on Guntersville. So I'm not on Guntersville right now, though. I'm on my home lake. But I came here just to test out stuff because this lake has no cell signal, no Wi-Fi, no nothing. So I had to put it all on my kayak. So some of us have to work for a living. Yeah, that's kind of, this has been work though. This is, well, just more mental than anything. Want you guys to look and see what's, I'm gonna flip the camera, show you guys what's sitting in front of the boat. See that little white thing down at the bottom? That's a Starlink. It's the new Starlink Mini that I'm testing out to see if I can get away with doing live streams. And like I said, I came here because there's no cell signal. I don't ever get I can get text here. I just can't text out. That's how bad it is. And so I'm just trying out new things. And the only thing I don't like is having my phone so far away from me. I really can't see the comments because my eyes are getting old. You're talking about a humble period of time. I had 20/20 vision my entire life, and now I can't see squat, and it sucks. But I guess what 50 will do to you. But, oh goodness. So I'm sitting in my kayak. I'm in my Bonafide PWR 129. And like I said, I'm testing out the new Starlink Mini that I just mounted to my kayak, and see what kind of signal we get out here in the middle of nowhere. Trying to get this camera up here, this DJI, to stream. That's the next trick. For some reason, it keeps messing up. I don't know what. I think it needs a Wi-Fi signal from the phone, and the phone needs a Wi-Fi signal from Starlink, and they can't do two at one time. So I've got to figure out how to get that done. Because I want that back camera to be my main camera when I'm fishing tournaments. But I've already caught 3 good ones today, except I screwed up. I caught a 23-incher and forgot to open up the little flap on the identifier, so that one doesn't count for my monthly tournament. But I did catch a 21 and I think a 21 and a 20 and 3/4 or 20 and a half, something like that today. So all pretty good big ones. Yeah, I need to get an iPad, David. You're right. I've got one. That's my next thing. It's sitting on my bed right now, but I got to get an iPad, and I think I'm going to run my live streams from the iPad. That way, if I catch a fish, I can submit it and take a picture and submit it during tournaments. So, but this is the first test run. Tomorrow, I'm probably going to be on Guntersville. But currently, I'm throwing a bull shad trick shad, and live scoping is what I'm doing. I know a lot of you guys frown upon that. I could absolutely care less, because I actually just use it to make a good cast, and it helps. But so it does look good. Thanks, David. I appreciate it, man. And by the way, picking up a new kayak for you, David, to try out. The new XTR. I haven't heard back from them yet, but I'm supposed to pick one up here in the next couple of weeks. If it doesn't happen in the next couple of weeks, it won't happen until the end of October, but it's got a very large man stability. You could definitely fish out of it. It had me at, how much did I weigh when they did that? 210, 220, and Chad at 300 plus in the boat at the same time. And boy, I wanted to knock him out of the boat so bad, but he was wearing Austin's microphone, so I didn't want to mess up Austin's mic. But had he not been wearing that mic, he would have gone swimming on video. It would have been funny. So, but anyway. So I've learned a few things about this Starlink, though. It takes up pulls a lot of power from my battery, so I may need to get it its own individual battery during a tournament. But the goal is, I've got a tournament coming up next weekend, the Knucklehead, the KBF Knucklehead tournament, which is a 5-person team tournament. And I want to stream on that for the first time, so because if things mess up there, it's no big deal. And then a few weeks later, I've got one on Caddo Lake in Louisiana, and that's a 2-day Bassmaster Kayak Series tournament. And I want to see how that one does. I'd love to have all the bugs worked out by the time that one starts. So that would be nice. Trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, fell out of my kayak again yesterday. It was great. Actually, 100 yards right up in front of me yesterday. That was a nice little swim. Was it yesterday? Yeah. I think it was yesterday or Saturday. I think it was Saturday or Friday. But I got it all on video. It's in my editor's hands now. I got my trick shad stuck on a pallet fish attractor, and then I dropped my lure retriever down, which I keep it right here, and it's on 550 cord. Dropped it down and immediately got it hung on the daggum fish attractor. And so I brought the fish attractor up to the kayak, and it weighed 150, 200 pounds. Brought it up to the bottom of the kayak and was trying to get it lined up to where I could reach down and pop my trick shad off. And just as I got it up and was pulling really hard, the lure retriever broke free, or came free, and I went over the side of the boat. So didn't mess anything up, didn't flip the boat, didn't drop anything in the water. And so it was not a bad thing. It just happens. It's my 3rd time falling out. Nature stuff, I've got a bull shad trick shad tied on, is what I'm playing around with. I'm not really fishing it hard. I'm busy talking to you guys. But it's one of those baits that when you're scoping with it, you've got to really, really concentrate. Especially the way I have my scope set up. But it's the 7-inch trick shad. I have caught a lot of big ones on it this year. I've caught 2. Well, no, I caught one of my big ones on today on a jig. Did I catch both of them? Caught 2 big ones on a jig. The biggest one came on the trick shad though. Fishing with Gramps. Get off my fish. Gramps, well, I'm not on Gunners today, but I will be tomorrow. So I start pre-fishing for our Knucklehead tournament tomorrow, and we'll see what happens. I haven't been on Gunnersville in over a month, so we'll see what happens with that. But wind is a little shifty. It's hard to keep everything straight. You guys are nuts. Gramps, we're gonna have a frog only tournament. How about that? Considering you can't catch a fish on a frog. Oh, there's a bass following my trick shad. But that's all they've been doing today, is just following it. Live scope's great when the fish are biting. When the fish aren't biting, it sucks. Get to watch all of them. I mean, I can get these big giant 10-pounders to chase my bait all the way back to the boat. But that's it. Nothing. Oh, goodness. Gramps, explain what's going on Gunnersville. This is actually, I'll help you do it. I'll start off. So the Knucklehead tournament, and it's something I didn't do a very good job of promoting this year. I did last year. But it's a 4-tournament, 4 individual tournaments, one a month. And influencers like Gramps and like me and like Creek fishermen and a bunch of other, Chad Hoover, we have during the summer we have 4 tournaments back to back, and the winners of each of those tournaments get to be on our fishing team. And then in October we have a championship, and Hoover puts up 10 grand, and I don't know what he's putting up this year. I haven't really looked, but and then we all get together and we fish as a 5-person team, and it's just a blast. We had a lot of fun last year. This is the 2nd year, and I hope we do it again. It's a lot of fun. And then the 4 people on the team get to split the 10 grand. So it's pretty cool. So this year I've got Damon Henderson, who's one of the top 5 kayak anglers this year in tournaments. I got Michael Musgrove. I got a guy from South Carolina and a guy from Texas, I believe. And I can't remember their names off the top of my head. Michael's my travel partner and Damon is my fishing partner. Or they're both my fishing partners. All right, I'm gonna make a move, I think. Let me check a couple more of these brush piles and see if there's anything hanging over top of them besides crappie. Should be crappie fishing. On live scope right now, I see about 200-300 of them. And I'm hoping there's some bass mixed in, but I doubt it. A lot of times when these crappie get into these brush piles, they'll push the bass out. So when you see a brush pile or a fishing tractor full of crappie, you can almost guarantee there's not going to be a bass in it. I mean, if there's just a few crappie, that's fine. But very seldom do I get to catch a bass out of a brush pile that's full of crappie. But a lot of times they're right outside the edge, so you're several feet off of the brush pile. If there's nowhere else for them to locate to, that's where they'll be. They'll be out of the brush pile just off to the side of it. All right, so I got a question. I'm gonna trying to do the best I can with the live stream. Would you rather see a camera like this facing me or one on my chest? See, because YouTube, you can only have it one direction. Now TikTok, you can have it runs both of your cameras, one facing you and one facing away from you. And it looks more like a gaming live stream, so on and so forth. But anyway, so would you rather it be on my chest facing away where you can see the fish finders and see me fishing, or see it facing me? That's kind of what I'm wondering. This is, when I'm actually talking. Now during a tournament, I'm not going to talk much. I'm going to hopefully have my camera, my DJI back over here, have it set up over my shoulder and have it streaming. We'll figure out what's wrong with that. So, chest mount. Yeah, so POV mount, so I have it right here on my chesty point facing out. Okay. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. Yeah, dude, I'm doing great. I have lost 27% of my body weight since Christmas. So I'm feeling good. I look good. My wife thinks I look good now. She told me I needed to start wearing my wedding ring again. I told her I wasn't going to because I don't have a problem telling everybody I'm married. So I've learned a lot about dieting and that kind of stuff, and how about our food. I mean, I can get into a whole conversation now that I've, I always knew that I had issues with non-organic wheat, with the glyphosate or glyphosite, whatever they call it, the herbicide that they use to kill wheat. It's basically Roundup, and it's in our wheat, and I know it because I have a reaction to it every time I get I take any in. But it goes a lot further than that. So I'm basically low carb, lots of vegetables, lean meat. Eat a lot of chicken soup. I home make, I make my own broth, my own everything else. I do a lot of that stuff. Don't do a whole lot of meal prepping. I just have certain things I really enjoy eating. Eat a lot of soups. But like I said, they're all homemade. So my dad was a soup guy. He taught me years and years ago how to make some really, really good soup. And then some intermittent fasting, and that's about it. So Money Bass, man, thanks for the $2. He says, great content. When will you be back on Lanier? Probably not till spring is probably when I'll get back on Lanier. I've just got a really busy from next week until the end of, actually middle to till Thanksgiving. I'm nonstop, getting ready for tournaments. I'm doing a lot of shorts. I'll be doing a lot of lives on TikTok. I got to build that following. I got over 10,000 right now, but I really got to put a lot of emphasis and a lot of effort into TikTok, because that's where the money is. YouTube's kind of flattening out, and I don't think it's YouTube per se. I think it's more, there's so many people doing YouTube videos, fishing videos, that it's a lot harder to grow now than it was a few years ago. So Nathan, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. You do know that both me and Chad guide on Gunnersville, right? And this is my favorite time of the year to fish. Guys, let me tell you right now, have some frogs with you. That's all I got to say, is get you some frogs. And it'll be a whole lot of fun. But there's specific colors that they like more than others, though, and I'm not going to share those at all. Gunnersville colors. Ooh, there's a school of fish right there on this. There's a little rough spot. It's actually an old stump on this point that I just pulled up on. It always has fish on it, whether sometimes they're bass and sometimes they are walleye, and most of the time they are just bluegill. So I'm trying to, right now I'm throwing a Dobbin swim bait rod. I'm trying to get Cast King to, eventually we'll have a good swim bait rod, but I'm gonna help them design a good swim bait rod. Just when you're throwing expensive swim baits like that, you want something that's designed for it. Cast King just doesn't have one yet, which is okay. They know about it. Thanks, man. Thanks, Nature Stuff, about my flag. That's cool. Yep, it's about time to replace it. It's getting a little faded. I've had it on there for a couple of years. I've got a replacement already in a box in my barn. Starting to get sun faded. It lasted a lot longer. It's probably been 3 years. It lasted a lot longer than I thought it would. So I always worry about them getting faded out like that. That was a horrible cast. David, I'm going to do TikTok lives for sure. For sure. I'll probably do more TikTok lives than I will YouTube lives. I love how they work. I love that I can make money while I'm doing lives. You know, a lot easier than YouTube. You know, and ultimately I got to make money doing this or it's not worth it. At least not worth it to my wife. You know, what I've always told my sponsors is they don't pay me to do this. They pay my wife to let me do this, or I'd have to go back to the hospital. And that's the last thing I want to do. Yeah, I think those are all bluegill. Whoo! Chandler, I'm not sure. Georgia's playing Alabama. You're right. Georgia's playing Alabama this weekend. And my son and I just talked about this. I don't know. Alabama's a little flat. Georgia's a little flat. So my only concern about Georgia this year is the injuries. They've got one of the hardest schedules I've seen in years. And I'm just worried about injuries. Also worried about getting my daggum trick shad stuck in that stump, not being able to get it out. These things don't come cheap. I really ought to be dragging a worm. Do they draw down the water on your lakes out there like they do out here in California? If it's a Corps of Engineer lake, yeah, they typically draw it down. This lake, they don't. This is a state-run public fishing area that I'm on right now. It's called Rocky Mountain. And like I said earlier, I'm out here testing my new Wi-Fi on my kayak. Yes, I've got Starlink Wi-Fi on my kayak now, but there's no signal out here at all. So I wanted to test and see how everything worked. And then, but yeah, they draw down Corps of Engineer lakes. They do Gunnersville a little bit, Tennessee River lakes. It just depends on which lake it is. Some lakes are pass-through lakes. Some of them are flood control lakes on the Tennessee River. So it just depends on which one that is, which one it is. Yeah, that's the bad thing about Georgia, is most of the lakes in Georgia, or actually all of them, are either controlled by the Corps of Engineers or by Georgia Power. And so the state biologist really has no say over how the fishing is managed and stuff like that. So they don't put a lot of resources into most of the lakes in Georgia. They put most of their resources into these public fishing areas, which are not very big, and they get pretty crowded. So, David, man, thanks for the 10 bucks, brother. I appreciate it. Let me see. But anyway, so they put a lot of effort into these, which are really good fishing once you spend a lot of time on it. My phone just dim for some stupid reason. But let me know when you get the 130. Oh, I will, dude. I will. You're the first person I thought of, because we've always talked about whether you wanted to get in a kayak or not, and there needed to be one for somebody your size. And I was like, I got in that thing, and I was like, yeah, David's gonna love this thing. So, ooh, I thought I got a bite, but I didn't. Tell you one thing this lake's got a lot of is fishing line. I got a wad of fishing line. You can always tell when I've been cranking. So ATL Clutch, man, what's going on? Thanks for the 5 bucks. He says dirty jig, flipping jig, and chatterbait has turned into my 1-2 punch. I agree 100%. 100%. I got some new chatterbaits in the mail the other day. Matter of fact, they're behind here, but I can't show them to you until October the 1st. But I'm pretty excited about them. That's what I'm gonna be doing at Gunnersville tomorrow, is playing with those and making a video about them, about the new chatterbaits that are coming out. This is not a chatterbait lake most of the year, so there's no grass. I mean, I had a year a couple of years ago where it was just, you know, Katie bar the door. It was great for chatterbaits, and I have not done good, very good at all this year on them. So mostly dragon baits and big swim baits and Alabama rigs, but I don't throw an Alabama rig, so. What's Jason say? He says, if you're stuck bank fishing this time of year, what's the secret? Wait for spring. No, not wait for spring, because what'll happen is your bait, as the water temperature starts to, or gets, you know, lower and lower, especially in October, November, the bait fish move shallow and the bass move shallow with them. So if it's a big lake, go to the back of a creek, you know, towards the back of the creek, but they're gonna be in super shallow water. And so fall is really good. Right now, they're still a little offshore, you know, but it all depends on how much shallow water cover you have and that kind of stuff. But as that water temperature gets into the low 80s and then down into the 70s, right now we're looking at 83.4 here. But as it gets into the 70s, it starts to, that shallow water can hold oxygen again. And so, yeah, October and November are great for shallow water fishing. Everything's shallow. It's great. And I am not concentrating on where I'm casting right now. Like I said, when I start live streaming my tournaments, there's not going to be any, you'll be hearing me fuss and cuss at myself, but that's about it. So, yeah, I need to grab a worm. I just know that if I throw a football jig in the middle of this stump, it ain't coming back. Wind noise probably pretty bad too. I'll probably have to use my my microphones when I do these too. Oh, lucky squarebill, huh? Yes, sir. I've become a fan of course, I've been using Strike King for years, but I've been becoming a fan of 6 cent square bills. Not just because they look good, but man, they run really well. I only have about a half a dozen of them. I don't have a whole lot. And I don't buy a lot of square bills anymore. I don't buy a lot of crankbaits because I went through my stuff 2 weeks ago, and my gosh, I got a lot of crankbaits that I don't use. And organized them, so maybe I'll start using them again. Man, my phone just went dim again. I can set my phone up and have it POV. Let me get this in. I'm gonna see if I can find my phone mount, rig something up real quick. So you guys can at least see what I'm doing, which at the moment is absolutely nothing. There Let me see if I can find my stuff. Let's see, I got this one. Let's see if I've got a mount in here. Nope. Let's see. Jason, I tell you, if I start doing these lives, you can spend every day on the water with me. If I can get all the bugs out of it, and that's kind of what, like I said, that's what I'm doing today, is trying to get the bugs out of everything, trying new things, you know, and I love the feedback you guys give me, so it really does help. But probably should have left my dry bag. So let's do something. Let's pull. Do I have a camera mount on this one? I don't. All right, let's do this. Can I do this without dropping the camera in the water? This always scares me. There we go. All right. I don't know if that'll work. Nope. I don't have what I need. Oh well. I will make sure I do that next time. I thought I did, but I don't. All right, we're good. Let's go back to trying to catch fish. What am I fishing? What are you fishing? What are you fishing with? So what I'm fishing, what I'm looking at right now is a point, and it's got a couple of stumps on the end of it, and it comes out of deep water, and these fish will pull up on these things in the afternoon, and they'll wait for schools of bait fish to come by is what they'll do. But right now all I'm seeing is bluegill. Dragging a worm, dragging a jig, and throwing a swim bait. Just flip the camera. Okay, I'll just flip the camera. See, but now you can't see my fish finder. I want to have it on my chesty. That way my old eyes can see these comments. So I caught a big one today up the lake a little bit. And within about 20 minutes, I had the only other boat on the lake. less than 50 feet from me. I'm like, where in the crud did he come from? But that's public water. I know where I need to go fish. Let me move over a little bit. Of course, this spot is, I'm kind of glad you guys can't see my fish finder on this spot. Ooh. So the worst thing about that I think about live streaming and camera angles and stuff like that is I fish offshore most of the time, and so all you see is just open water. You really don't get to see what I fish. I think the camera mount behind my shoulder will be best when I'm doing tournaments. Gramps, that's what I did, man. I sold my boat. Of course, I sold it to my buddy who really needed it, so it didn't bother me much. I wasn't using it. Well, this guy's paying attention more to me than he is his own fishing. So what I'm doing right now is I'm actually dragging my jig over a hard spot out here in about 12 feet of water. There's always fish on it. When the thermocline is below it, there's always fish on it. Reel sounds a little dirty. Actually, no, it's an electric reel, David. Plus, I've been using the snot out of it trying to break it. So. I need to move up a little bit. Too far away from where I want to cast. So fishing's been really, really tough on these lakes lately. I mean, I can usually catch one, maybe two good ones. When I say good ones, 20+ inch, fish a day. And that's what I've been doing. Today's been 3. I caught a 23, a 21 and a quarter, and a 20 and something, 20 and a half. But that's been rare. And still, it's long periods of time between fish. When I get to Louisiana pre-fishing and fishing for the Bassmaster Kayak Series tournament, I'll catch a lot of fish, especially in that tournament. I always do. Plus the pattern I run, I'll be running there, will produce a lot of fish. So, and the bass today have not wanted to feed down. They've wanted to feed it. They wanted to look up. They're not feeding, and they'll just chase things as it comes by. Ridiculous. Man, it's hard to see the comments for some dumb reason. Plus, I'm blind as a bat. Oh, might have to throw a crankbait out there. Come on, really? That's what I hate about live scope. You can see the fish you're not catching. I know those are bass. I do know now by the way they reacted to my bait. Wonder. Pull that one. So they don't want to bite anything right now. Let's go somewhere else. All right. Yeah, they're suspended above this rock, these rocks. It's bait on them. That angle's driving me nuts. So yeah, on my lives, I'm gonna start wearing a chesty and doing it like that. I like that because then you guys can see what I'm seeing. You can see my fish finders. You can see what my hands are doing and what my rod's doing. Because ultimately, I still just want to teach. So right now I'm throwing a 14 or DT14 is what I'm throwing. Trying to get it down to 12 feet, bump it off of this pile of rocks that's down here. Problem is these fish are all suspended and not really feeding much. They're just kind of hanging out. So, trying to get a reaction strike out of them. If I could hit the broadside of a barn with my cast, that's way off. There we go, that's right in line with it. All right, so how many of us have been fishing long enough to remember what triangulation was? And how to do it efficiently? Oh, I know David has, no doubt. That was pre-GPS. And dadgummit, I was good at it. All right, crankbait's not working. Wind noise pretty bad. See, these fish ought to be chomping right now. Wind, cloud cover, whole 9 yards. They should be eating. So what I'm doing is I'm throwing a trick shad out. I'm live scoping them. I want to make sure that trick shad gets down to the right depth, but it takes a long time. I mean, I don't think anybody's fishing a trick shad like this right now. And nope, nothing reacted to it, so I'm gonna keep on moving. Oh, getting to be that transition time of the day where they come out of deep water and they move up shallow, or they start to move up shallow, and you stop catching them too, even if I was catching them before. It's that, get that light angle about right here, and it's almost there. They start to make that transition from middle of the day hangout to trying to get up and get ready to go feed all night long. Yeah, Nathan, I did it as in the military too. I used triangulation all the time. I was the knucklehead at a lot. Understood map reading and land navigation quite a bit. I kind of was a geek when it came to that kind of stuff. So whenever we got lost, we'd take the map away from the lieutenant and they'd give it to me. That's an old Army joke. Sorry. What's the first thing you do when you get lost in the Army? You take the map away from the lieutenant and give it to an NCO. Man, I wish I could hit the broadside of a barn today. My casts are horrible. So when you guys are ever live scoping, you run and you're watching your bait go through a school of fish or go past some fish and stuff like that. Each species of fish act a little bit different. It's the craziest thing. You know, for instance, between bass and crappie. Crappie will follow your crappie, whatever you want to call it. They'll follow your bait. but they do it lazily. They just kind of, and then they just follow. They'll follow it, you know, several feet away from whatever they're in, whatever they're hiding in, and then they just kind of lazily turn away. Bass will come after it and get a good look at it and swim away a lot, but bass are a lot more aggressive. And so you can tell what species they are just by how they react. And then after a while, you can tell what species they are just by where they're sitting and what they look like on the scope. It's crazy. Do I think it's cheating? No. It makes things a little bit easier. It makes things more enjoyable for me. I learn a lot. I learn like how they situate themselves. I learned that, you know, if you get a big fish attractor that's full of crappie, there's not going to be a bass in it. The crappie will get in there and they'll push the bass out of the brush pile, or they'll push them down to the bottom. And so I've learned that. And that's kind of what's going on with this brush pile or fish attractor that I'm fishing right now. Is there's a lot of crappie up on the top end of it, but I just pushed a bass out of the bottom end of it, the bottom part of it. So Jason, you're so right. Some lures are for fish and some are for fishermen. Live target, that's all I got to say. That company used to be all about catching the fishermen. It had nothing to do with the fish. Drove me nuts. Just wish I could find a company that would trust me enough, or a big company that's trust me enough to be able to design lures and stuff for them. That would be fun. I've got ideas that I would love to put out on the market. Yeah, those are all crappie. Good grief, there's a ton of them. Why am I bass fishing today? I need to go home and get my 14-foot crappie sticks. That's exactly what I need to do. Oh, Dogbone says he copied my net setup. That's awesome, man. It is definitely the thing. Wish I could show it to you, but I can't catch a fish today. At least not on video. I was talking to my son I was FaceTiming my son for almost 2 hours. Or this morning for an hour, and then he got off and I caught those 3 big ones, and then he called me again and we got on for another 2 hours and I stopped catching them again. Wasn't catching squat. Yeah, those aren't bass. Let me show you this. Let me see if I can pop this phone off and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So that's the brush pile I was just fishing, and those are all crappie around it. All of those are crappie. And there's so many there, they basically, if there was a bass in there, they pushed them out. And so that's kind of what I was looking at. And that's an isolated brush pile. It's all by itself. There's no other ones there. And it's on a little point. jig rod out of the way. The way I set a hook on this rod, I will break something else. I'm surprised my Mexican friends aren't here today. They're always here this time of day, sitting over there on the bank, catching catfish. Boy, they got some spinning rods. They can cast halfway across this lake. It's hilarious. I'm like, man, I wish I could cast that long. Of course, they probably have a 2-ounce weight on the end of it. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to get a bite. They're just in a funk right now, and I don't know why. Not a clue. It's another thing I like about scope is you can see that they're in a funk. I'll just keep trying to force feed them and see what happens. Got one chasing it. He ain't really doing much though. The wind's shifting on me too. It's a little one. What batteries am I using nowadays? I've actually got the Rely-On batteries. I'm running 100 amp hour in the back, and I'm 75 is running all my electronics. They've been really good. I've been really burning them up, you know, like trying to drain them dead and charge them back up and drain them dead. I probably drained them dead 30 times last year. Just trying to see, you know, what their limits are. I love breaking stuff, you know that. But just trying to figure out whether they're worth the darn, worth the money, because they're not the cheapest. They're not the cheapest, but they have, you know, and not knocking Dakota Lithium, but I've got several Dakotas that are done. I mean, they just stopped working, and I have not killed a Rely-On yet. So, but they are pricey. Yeah, everything's starting to move. The old afternoon transition. So is the signal good? Everything good on this? Like I said, guys, those who are new on here and haven't been on the whole time, I'm actually trying a new. I put Starlink on my kayak this weekend, so I'm out here testing it out. And so Starlink just came out with the new Mini. I guess they call it a receiver. It's basically the dish, and everything is integrated. The Wi-Fi or the router and everything is inside the dish, so it's a lot smaller. So it takes up less room, and there's only one cord that you have to manage, and that's just the power cord, and it's so nice. And so my goal, and has been my goal for a year or so, is I've wanted to figure out how to live stream from my kayak and just do that a lot. So you guys can just, so we can have a conversation, and I can teach on the water, and it's like I'm guiding, people. And then, so I'll work all the bugs out of it and everything else. And then plus, when I fish tournaments, you guys can just jump on and just watch. I'll just have the stream on. I won't be paying much attention to it. I'll be fishing, but you can definitely, I'll be the first person to live stream well, not live stream, but, fully live stream kayaks or kayak tournaments. I think it'll be cool. So, throwing a ribbit, Gene. No, not yet. Not yet. That's in a couple of months or a month and a half. I'll be throwing a ribbit. I had to go buy 5 packs of them the other day, or a week or so ago, getting ready for that tournament in Louisiana. So it looks and sounds great. That's good. That's good. Wind noise or anything a little while ago when the wind was blowing, I'll be using my my DJI microphones. So those things have been so nice. One goes dead, you pull it off, and oop, I got a big fish following my bait. Come on. Nope. See, they just follow it to the boat. See, typically when you can get 2 of them to chase it, they'll compete. And that's what I had. I had 2 big fish coming after the swim bait, but they didn't want to eat. Those were big ones. But I forgot what I was talking about. How am I powering the Starlink? So basically, I just explained it, I guess. I bought a short Starlink cable. There's some aftermarket companies that make exact copies of Starlink cables and that kind of stuff. And I bought a little 6-footer, cut one end of it off of it, and all it is just a hot wire and it's just a 2. Hold on. Oh, he hit it too. Oh, did not hit it hard though. But so and so basically all I did is just hooked it up to an SAE plug, which is what I use in my kayak, and just plugged it straight into where my fish finders go. And that's it. Powered it up. But yeah, the new Mini is really nice. It's a little bit bigger than a piece of paper. I mean, I'll show you. It's right here on the front of the boat. That's it right there. So just mounted it with a couple of a little Yak Attack mount. Actually, they're little panfish camera mount. I had to make a part to go with it. The Mini comes with a pole mount, and I made a little disc that fits in that pole mount, and then put a 1/4-20 insert in it. I made the disc out of some starboard, and little insert, and hooks right up to a tripod or whatever I want it to hook up to. Dude, I mean, you guys saying that, telling me that the stream looks good, that makes me so happy. Good gosh. It's exciting. I want to do this every single day. that I can. Probably won't do it much while I'm pre-fishing for a big tournament, but if I do that, it'll be the camera angle floor facing up, so all I can see is the sky. Then it won't be worth it. Because I know you folks, Gramps, you'd be all up in my business. What I want to know is how can I stop a iPhone from dimming out when it gets either warm or really, really sunny. I mean, I've turned the brightness to manual. I have it cranked all the way up and it still dims out. You know, I mean, I've played around with those settings. I've done everything I can, and I can't find anything that will stop it from. You guys know that fish tournaments, you get in the heat of the summertime and you pull your phone out of your pocket to take a picture of a fish, and you can't see the screen because the iPhone's blacked out or you know, darkened out, and it does it automatically. And I cannot figure out how to turn that off. It's crazy. Like I said, I've got the dimmings all manual. I mean, at least I turned that setting off, and I can set that myself, but it still dims out to where you can't see it anymore. And the way I fix it is I'll take it out of this black pocket and I'll put it behind my life jacket way back here and tuck it behind there for about 3 or 4 minutes, and it'll cool off, and then it'll be bright enough for me to be able to see. If Stolquist will let me help them design a life jacket, that's one of the things I'm going to want is a foam pocket inside the jacket, not outside. For that reason and that reason only. Man, a whole big old school of fish, bait fish, just moved in. Which means they ain't gonna pay no attention to what I'm throwing. Yep, it still dims even on manual. I just can't figure out how to just shut that off. It sucks. So tomorrow, the next day, I'm gonna try a live with using my iPad. I've just gotta work on a mount. An iPad mount. Dude, it'll look so stupid on this. I mean, I got enough crap on this kayak already, putting an iPad right there. Good grief. I already got 2-inch screens. I was talking to a guy the other day. He's like, why you got all those fish finders on your boat? I said, because I can read them. I remember when my fishing partner years ago, Bobby Smith, you guys might know him in Augusta, Pastor Smith. I remember when he got side scanned for the first time, he's like, came up to me, he's like, Gene, you got to teach me how to read these things. He didn't know how to read. One of the best anglers I ever met. Couldn't read a fish finder. He fished off a map. Gosh, there's big fish all over these rock brush piles. Every time I swim one over top of it, or swim the bait over top of it, one of them comes out of the brush pile and just looks at it and says hi, and don't do anything with it. And they're big ones. Just too much bait. So, what's the best baits going in October that you would use? I still use the Texas rig. Yeah, Texas rig is good, but when you get into October, get into the fall months, it starts to be moving bait season, basically. You know, square bills, let's go old school a little bit. Square bills, spinner baits, flukes, you know, anything that imitates a shad or a bait fish in the back of the creeks, and they'll start to move to the backs of the creeks. Sometimes here in Georgia, in the south and that kind of stuff, they don't get to the backs of the creeks until November. But you know, when the water temperature gets down to the 60s, they're usually back there. So where no matter where you are in, you know, fishing man-made reservoirs. Now on up north in the natural reservoirs, they just move shallow into pockets. The bait will move that way and the bass will follow. And so any kind of pockets or shallow flat or anything like that, the bass will get up on those shallow flats. And you just go with the bait fish. But the baits are, you know, and then lipless crankbait's really good. Chatterbait, you know, and crankbait's my favorite crankbait that time of the year. Matter of fact, I found my box that I've been missing for years the other day. Is Rapala Shadrap number 5s, little small Rapalas, because typically the bait fish are pretty small this time of the year. Man, those fish, they just keep coming out like they want to eat the bait, get all the way up to it and swim away. But you'll see me covering a lot of water come middle of October when that water temperature cools down. And I'll just be throwing something moving. Gosh, that's a big fish. Every time I come over this brush pile, this giant fish comes out and licks at it and swims right away. You guys remember the old, I know David Fields, if you're still on here, you remember the old AquaView cameras, the underwater cameras. I bought one years ago. Took it out, had it for about 6 months, got to see all the great fish that come up and take a look at my bait and swim away, and I was like, I can't do this, and I ended up selling it. It just drove me nuts being able to see all those fish that I wasn't catching. I'm like, I really didn't want to know it. Now I'm doing live scope, which is basically the same thing, and I get to see all the fish that I'm not catching. But I tell you one thing, I'm gonna start putting my jerk baits in the boat if I'm gonna do this a lot. But once I get to Guntersville, I won't be scoping that much. Guntersville, I typically just cover a lot of water. Grass changes the whole, it changes everything, for me at least. So I'm gonna try to get to Guntersville tomorrow, but I do have some stuff I gotta do when I get home. I'm actually in the process of moving my office back downstairs and remodeling my office. I built a new desk. Can't wait to show you guys all that stuff when it's done. Do I river fish for bass much? I do a little bit, yep. I've got the Oostanula, the Etowah, and the Coosa River right here in town. And I do from time to time. Matter of fact, I had to turn down a trip to the Flint River this weekend with a bunch of guys from the Westbrook team. I love to river fish. I'm just not that great at it. Don't have a whole lot of experience. I just, you know, I cut my teeth fishing big lakes, and that's kind of where I'm comfortable most of the time. But now, you know, we'll see. We'll see what I can do. I've got the RVR, the Bonafide RVR I want to take out more. I just love this PWR so much, it's hard to fish out anything else. I mean, I've got this thing where I like to fish out of it all day. All right, I'm moving. I'm tired of watching these fish look at my bait and swim away. Forget that. Let's make a long run. Gonna go through a tunnel. Head over to the other lake. All right. Might lose me a little bit when I go through this tunnel. That'd be about it though. So what bait was I using? I was using a bull shad trick shad is what I was using. And I've got a jig tied on and a Texas rig worm and a chatterbait and a crankbait. So how can you find vegetation when you can't see anything in water? With a crankbait, treble hooks. That's how I used to find them all the time, and a Carolina rig. So I won a tournament years ago, electric only tournament. And I spent 3 days dragging a 1.5 ounce jig around, pulling up grass, finding the green grass. That's another good fall pattern. You get the lakes that have a lot of grass, especially milfoil and hydrilla, and it starts to die off in the fall. Well, if you can find a patch of bright green, healthy grass, all the bass will be in that. And the more grass that dies off, the more concentrated the bass get to that nice, clean grass. So that fresh, nice green stuff. So I was dragging around, you know, pulling up milfoil all for 3 days straight pre-fishing. I ended up winning that tournament. I had 25.5 pounds. I had a 9.98 pound and a 6 pound bass on that one. And second place, I had 25.25 or 25.5, something like that. Second place had like 12.5 pounds. So, do I have polarized sunglasses? Yes, I do. These are red fins. I picked up a little while ago. Second pair of red fins. You guys can see that. I only wear polarized. And I'm real picky. You know, I use red fins because they have Zeiss lenses, so they're super clean, super clear lenses. There's not a whole lot of parallax to them, and it doesn't give me a headache. So, Ruben, treble hooks find grass. Yes, they do. What are the coldest water temps? Coldest is in the 30s, but that doesn't happen very often. You know, once every 4 or 5 years, we'll get down into the 30s and have a real big shad kill. Let me turn this around and show you guys what I'm doing. So that grass is actually, I call it stinkweed. It's filamentous algae. It smells horrible. Bass don't like it. And the shallow water in this lake is full of it, so I try to avoid the shallow water. Just nasty stuff. Ever fished New England water? I don't think I have. My mom's from New England. She's from Westbury, Massachusetts. I have multiple generations of grandparents and family that are from West Newbury. My great grandfather, maybe was one of the first settlers of Newbury, Massachusetts. Give me a secret technique for pressured bass in highland reservoirs. Woo, a jerkbait. Not much of a secret, but I don't know. I don't have any secret baits. Matter of fact, that's why my friends won't tell me any secrets, because I like to make videos about them. Dogbone, Massachusetts. Mom's from West Newbury. Okay, you guys are back. Comments are way behind. It's crazy. It's like 30 seconds, 30-second delay on the comments. Have I ever done any fishing in Virginia? I actually caught my first fish ever when I was a little kid, I think I was 3 or 4, in a creek in the mountains of Virginia. I was born in Covington, Virginia, but I was only 4 months old when we moved out, so I don't remember it. But we went back up to visit when I was 4 or 5 years old, and Dad took me out and I caught a red-eye bass on Craig's Creek, just outside of Covington, Virginia. All right, so this next spot I'm at right now has had big ones on it for a month and a half, 2 months. I caught a 23 on here earlier today, and it would have been entered into a tournament, but stupid me didn't flip the identifier up to be able to be seen in the picture, and I released the fish without checking the camera or checking the picture, and 23 incher down the drain. Good fish though. All right, let's put some of these up. So let me talk to you guys about what the conditions have changed. So all day today it's been slick, calm, hot, sunny. Now we got cloud cover that just moved in, and wind picked up, which on this lake that has no current whatsoever, the wind is your current. And so that makes me change things quite a bit. At least change my mindset. But it makes the fish typically will bite better when you get a little bit of wind, a little bit of water being pushed. So I'm throwing out, this is actually a ledge. I'm in 6 feet of water. There's 20 feet of water right over there. And I'm gonna be fishing the edge of this ledge with different baits. I always start out with the trick shad because I want to catch the biggest fish on these things. Or a big worm or something like that. Yeah, the bass have just been in a funk. Crazy. And just like with any ledge, you have a hard spot. So what happens is the silt can't settle on that last little lip of the ledge. So you get a hard spot, and that's typically where the bass will hang out. If I ever planned on fishing in South Africa, dude, that would be awesome. The bass down there are beautiful. But no, never had the opportunity. That would be really, really cool though. I have some real close friends that he lived in South Africa for a number of years. He worked for the government, and they loved it. But every picture of every largemouth I've ever seen from South Africa has just been a gorgeous fish. So typically this time of the day, during this transition period where they're moving from wherever they're hanging out in the sun, and ooh, there's a big one that just chased me all the way to the boat. During the middle of the day, when they start to move up and transition up shallow to feed, they'll stop at what are called break points. So a break is like a drop, like a ledge. And on the ledge, there'll be break points, whether it be something different, rock or stump or just a little dip or a little rise or something like that. And they'll stop at those break points. And that's kind of what I'm fishing right now. Is I've got the ledge, and then I've got a rocky drop on that ledge, but along that ledge is bigger rocks or bigger hard spots. I wouldn't even call them rocks. And I'm trying to hit those because that's where a majority of the fish will hang out. And if there's a big bass that's a little bit more timid, don't want to come up shallow too early. Kind of like deer hunting. Those are deer hunt. The big bucks will satellite a field until it gets good and dark, and then he'll come out and chase does and feed and stuff like that. Or he'll check does from the outside where he can't be seen from the field. And so, gosh almighty. All right, I'm gonna catch a big one here. They just keep chasing me. But a big bass will do the same thing. They'll kind of hang out until they feel a little bit more safer about moving shallow. And shallow is all relative. It just depends on the lake and the clarity, water clarity. It's hard to explain how shallow, I would be talking about. It just depends on the lake. Maybe I need to switch to a smaller bait. Oh. Austin says he has a motor, I think. Yes, I do. I got an XI3 right there on the front. Right there. Yep. My saying this year for kayak fishing and motors is I don't fish for exercise. I fish to catch fish. If I want to exercise, I'll go to the gym. I got a nice gym membership. Plus, I can't pedal. I got a bad hip. So actually I got two bad hips, but the Army pretty much did me in when it comes to my hips and my knees. And so I can't pedal. I can either paddle or I can have a motor, and I'm not gonna paddle. Even when I paddle, my back comes out not feeling too good for the next several days. Gosh almighty. I'm gonna trick one of them suckers here in just a minute. We're gonna catch a fish. I can't believe there's 46 people watching me do nothing. My personal best is 10 pounds, 12 ounces. I need to be up a little bit, I think. Let's see, where am I at on my map? Wait, you got some juice about Gunnersville. Let me see if I can think of some juice. XTR 130 kayak or boat? XTR 130 is a kayak. It's actually about the same size as a Hobie, and it's a little bit smaller than a native Titan X. It just the way it's designed, it can hold a lot more weight. So I think it's an amazing boat for the weight capacity, and that's basically what Hans was doing, is he wanted to figure out how he could do that, how he could make a boat that was less than 13 feet long and be able to hold 550 pounds. It actually can hold more than that, but according to the computers and the powers that be, he said it says 550, so I would honestly give it about 700, but that's just me and my experience with it, which is only one day. So Hopefully they'll let me pick mine up here soon. Of course, I won't be able to do anything with it until November now. They should have gotten me one in 2 weeks ago, but that's okay. A couple of small bass. They won't hit my bait, it's too big. They just follow it. Where am I at? Okay, I pulled up to there. So this lake that I'm fishing, these lakes that I'm fishing right now in Georgia, I actually should not be filming from here or live streaming from here, because they are some of the best lakes for big bass in the state of Georgia. They're just hard to fish. I mean, it's a grind every day. So you get a lot of people that come out here and see the videos of us catching it. Matt from Tactical Bassin has been here. Actually, I think they both have been here, which I'm gonna have to talk to them. If they keep coming over here fishing my lake and not contacting me, I would love to fish with Matt and Tim. But I live 10 minutes away from here. But anyway, so it's just got some really good quality bass in it. Right now you can expect to catch one over 22 inches if you know the lake well enough and if you've spent time on it, stuff like that. But you can catch one over 21, 22 inches just about every other day fishing out here. So like I said, today I've caught a 22, a 23, a 22, and a 21, I believe, or a 20 and some change. I can't remember. Right at 21 inches, I think. There's just big fish in this lake. It's well managed, but it is an offshore. You've got to have electronics. Just to see what you're throwing at, just to, see the offshore cover that they've put out here and be able to fish it efficiently. There we go, got him. First fish. That took forever. Yeah, the only bad thing about using a net and treble hooks right here, but I'm gonna deal with it because I'd rather have a treble hooks in the net than in between my legs. Little 16 incher. See, nice little healthy one. Oh. See how nice and healthy and fat and chunky they are? Pretty dang good. I need to retie. I don't know if you guys saw the video about this, but I put magnets right up underneath the lip of my seat, and that my scissors, they're really, they're strong rare earth magnets, but my scissors and my pliers fit there, and it's awesome. So easy. I don't use my teeth anymore because I can reach my scissors. Well, I have treble hook covers, but I'm talking about treble hooks still attached to a bass flopping around between my legs. I'm not playing that game. Nope. I mean, I'm done having kids and everything, but still. Just not my idea of a good time. Do you think the trick shad is the best glide style bait for the money? It is for me. I bet I have caught this year alone, since the spring, probably 150 fish over 5 pounds on this bait. So this is a fairly new trick shot. I've had it for about a month, 2 months, I think. And look, the hooks have dug grooves into it. I've thrown it so much. Just a lot of fun to throw. I've learned a few things about it that really do produce fish. And it weeds, typically you won't even catch a 16-incher like that one on it. Typically it'll weed out the big ones. What I love glide baits for is finding fish. It'll draw them out of the cover so you can see that they're there. And then if they're not biting it, then you throw something else, like a worm or a jig or something else. But you know that they're there, which is nice. But I made that video this spring with Austin Neary about throwing glide baits and how he does it. And that changed the world for me. I mean, he taught me so much, and I put it all in that video. But he made it to where I'm not afraid to throw this thing anymore. So got 2 little ones chasing it all the way back to the boat. So typically the little ones will just chase it, and I don't know what they're trying to do. They can't fit it in their mouth. So now the bass have moved out of the deep water and they've pulled up to the edge of this drop in 11 feet of water. So just about every time I swim over top of them, there's something that comes and chases it. And that bite typically only lasts for about 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes, and then they scatter out on the flats or wherever they're going to feed that night. And they become a little bit more difficult to catch just because they're not concentrated. Foreman Outdoors, I will give you my rule, okay? And it's been my rule for years and years. I will check out your channel after you have 20 videos. It's just been, in my experience, until you get 15 to 20 videos under your belt, you don't really have a channel. You just have a bunch of videos. My favorite ones were always the kids that would say, come check out my channel, and I'd go look and it was like 2 videos. And that gives me plenty of stuff to go look at, and I always give my honest opinion. I really do. I'm not mean about it, but I don't mind checking out your channel for sure. But yeah, dude, get my first 20 videos I actually deleted. They were bad. I mean, because I was still learning how to edit, learning how to film. I had a 420 camera. This was before before HD cameras came out. So I had a lot to learn, and there wasn't a whole lot out there to teach me. I had to learn from trial and error. So, but I think it's great you're doing it. I really do. I'm just the knucklehead that didn't quit. It's the reason I'm sitting where I'm at right now. I've come close to quitting a few times, but I'm the one that didn't. I just love teaching people how to do this. It's a shame that there's been so much shade put over top of LiveScope. It's, I'd love to be able to sit down and teach teach people how to use it, but use it responsibly. I don't agree with it being in, having 600 of them. I think there only needs to be 1 used per boat in a tournament. I really do. I believe that 100%. I think they should be allowed in tournaments if everybody has them. And that's professional tournaments. Amateur tournaments, you really can't you can't force people to have them. But like I said earlier, I have learned so much from fishing live scope about bass behavior and, you know, how they move around and how to find them, you know, where can I expect them to be at certain times of the day, you know, that kind of stuff. I mean, the knowledge I have of bass migration and bass, you know, how they relate to cover is tremendous compared to what it was 3 years ago before I got it. So how do you get a trick shad? You follow their Facebook page or their Instagram, Bullshad, and they drop them every once in a while. I think once a month or every once in a while, they'll drop a load of them where they've made them and they're ready to go, and you just get on there and you buy them, and you know, and they don't last long. I mean, they typically sell out within a couple of hours. Or if you can make it to Ackworth, Georgia, which is right up the road from me, about an hour and 5 minutes from me, if you can make it to their shop, you can buy them from their shop. But they don't sell them on anybody's websites. So you can only buy them directly from them when they drop them, when they do a special run and drop them, or you can, you know, come to the shop and get one. And you get to meet Mike and Jen and all those folks over there, so. Fishing with Fred, that's funny. I like that. That's kind of a cool thing. There's got to be a way that, and I've seen it a little bit, but I don't really follow tournaments that much. I don't watch them on their live streams. I just don't have time, you know. And when MLF started messing around with the numbers and stuff, I just lost interest in MLF. But you know, when they first came out, it was set up to where it would automatically kick you from the feed, so you had to load back in, so it would inflate their numbers to their sponsors, you know. And I'm like, and that's why I just was like, I'm not watching this crap, you know, because once every 20 minutes of watching, it would bump you. And there's another number for them, so they can inflate their numbers and say X number of people, you know, logged on to Major League Fishing. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And I just, you know, that and with life in general, I just haven't had a chance to watch very much. So when everybody was talking about live scope and being boring to watch and stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't bother me because I don't watch it. So. See, like right now, I know that these fish want to fire up and feed, because as I scan over top of these brush piles, I see a bass suspended just above the top of that brush pile. Not way up, but right at the top of it. And that means they are in that transition to move up shallower. They'll get to something and they'll you know, inflate their bladder and kind of hang out, and then when it gets dark enough, they'll slide over and get up on this flat and they'll feed. Didn't know that 3 years ago. So the trick is try to get them to open their mouth early. And that ain't always easy. Here, piggy, piggy, piggy. Get to the good stuff. You know what? That's probably not a bad idea. I'm sitting, but the thing is, I got 3 big ones right here. I'll show you here in just a second if I can get a good image of them. They're sitting right in this one fish attractor, and I've run the bait by them several times, and they turn and look at it, but they don't do anything with it. So, yeah, I need to grab that chatterbait and go make a run up shallow up on that flat on the other end of the lake. I'll make one more cast, see if I can't hit one of them in the nose or something. Am I looking for Arkansas Razorback? Yeah, right. Good old Arkansas. Good to see them finally have a good team and a good coach. I think my last cast needs to be right along this lip that's right here. Let's see if I can line up on that lip. I need a haircut. Look at that mess. Ah. I've been tempted to shave my beard off lately since I lost all this weight. Since I turned 50, I know if I shave my beard, I'll look like I'm 40 again. Of course, age never bothered me any. It is what it is. Ah, jeez, I gotta make another cast. Just had a giant swim up underneath my boat. Of course, that could have been a carp too. All right, I'm done. Let's go back up top. Let's go to the other end of the lake. Make a long run. Yep, howdy, you are absolutely right. Them balls are going to be good this year. I'm glad to see that. I'm kind of a closet balls fan sometimes. I'd rather see them win than any other SEC team besides Georgia. Looks cloudy, no top water. They're not shallow yet. They're not way up feeding top. They haven't been feeding top. They are this time of the year, but I haven't seen any break of surface in weeks. It's 11:42. Good grief. It is 5, almost 6 o'clock here, I think. Oh yeah, yeah. 5:43. So Josh, the Spartacus combo, I don't have. I actually sent them an email last week to get all of the, I got an initial set of rods and reels, and it was all their best stuff. their most expensive stuff. And so last week I sent an email out and made an order of the Spartacus and all of the, the new stuff that's lower price. It's in the $50 to $60 range. So I'm excited about getting those and trying them out. So, but I mean, even these rods and reels that are less than $100 that I'm using right now, I mean, good gosh, they're really good. I mean, for that price, you can't beat them. So I know Cast King started off on a pretty bad foot. I mean, I was, front row seat of watching that happen. But they have gotten a lot better over the years for sure. They just don't have a big swim bait rod yet. Austin, I was there 2 weeks ago fishing Caddo. I got a tournament there. I'll be there, I think the 11th, but I've got a tournament there like the 19th and 20th on Caddo or Bistino. So, and I'll be back down there, I think on the 11th or 12th of October. So I love fishing Caddo. I was there, like I said, I was there for a week and fished there from sun up to sundown for almost 8 days. What do I think about the eye reel, and does it work like a DC reel? Because I just want to know a bit more about it. So it's not like a DC. The DC is 100% cast control. What the eye reel does is it has 4 different parts of your cast. It has different brake settings, and it's all computerized. And I think it's like 64 times a second it reads your cast. And so it has an initial cast, it has the next step, and then the finished cast, and you don't backlash during that period of time. The one thing you got to understand about it, with the DC reel, it never backlashes. This one, once you get to the end of your cast, if you don't put your thumb on it, it'll free spool a little bit and you'll get a little bit of overrun. But rarely, if ever, during a cast do I get any overrun at all. It's always when I let it go slack and I'm just, goofing around and stuff like that, or line falls out of it, that's when I get a backlash, because that computer doesn't hit the brakes when it's not being used, not being casted. So I love it. I mean, the different settings and stuff like that. My only complaint is the app itself. And that's being changed. You can't connect to the reel unless you have a signal. So here on this lake that I'm on, if I didn't have Starlink on my kayak, I wouldn't be able to adjust the eye reel. And like I said, that's all being changed. It's just an app thing. It's not a real thing. So being able to adjust the brakes and things like that, or go from one type of casting to another, you can't do unless you have a signal right now. So, but I'll let you know when that changes. But it's my jig rod. It's one I use the most anyway, and I love it absolutely. And I did get an increase in casting distance by almost 15 feet when I went to the eye reel. When I had it set up for casting, a distance casting and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I added about 15 feet on my cast. It was pretty cool. So I need to tuck this thing in my hat. Driving me nuts. What is my favorite jerkbait rod for early fall? So I want one that's a little bit stiffer than what I use in the spring. So a medium fast, 6, 8, 7 foot medium fast rod is what I'm looking for. Got a little bit of flex in it, but it's got a good, because I'm jerking it a lot faster than I do in the springtime. So I want to be able to have it reflex back a whole lot faster. So. You're welcome. I'm making kind of a long run right now. For these lakes, it's a long run, but I might stop off and fish a couple of spots on the way. So my next live, I'm gonna have a chesty with my phone on it. I got a couple other tests I wanna do. For you guys that are new, what I'm trying to do is figure out how I can live stream my tournaments from this. And what I'll probably end up doing is figuring out how to hook up my DJI Osmos Action 4, that camera. Hook it up and live stream from it. What I'm probably gonna have to do is do it through an iPad or something like that. Because it did not work today because I needed to have 2 different Wi-Fi connections. And so with the camera hooked up to my phone and my phone wanting to hook up to my Starlink, it wouldn't work. So I think I'm gonna stop right here. This spot right here typically has some small fish on it. I usually can catch them on a jig, and I'll show you that eye reel. So I've had this since, oh gosh, a month before I cast, so since June. And haven't oiled it, haven't anything. It has a little bit of noise to it now because I have been beating it to death. But the other thing is that the braking or the drag is a little bit tight. So just a micro turn changes it quite a bit. So that's something that's just a little bit different than other reels that I've owned. And my favorite jig rod is actually their Carolina rig. Their 7'6" Carolina rig rod is my favorite jig rod from them. Just works really good. I fish pretty aggressive, especially when I'm ripping out of grass and stuff like that. There's no grass in this lake, so just that filamentous algae crap. But it's a really good one. Now you guys are getting something that I don't talk much about. You're getting to see me fish a jig. I don't really talk about how I fish one much, but I don't typically drag it or hop it or shake it or anything else. I cast it out across whatever, past whatever hard bottom I want to fish. Let it sink down to the bottom, and here it's going to sink about 10 feet, but then it's going to come up to about 6. And I get it to where it starts to come up that hill. Let it settle back down to the bottom, and I do this. That's all I do. People who watched my video of me fishing that no limit tournament, that native no limit tournament on Gunnersville, they kept asking, how are you fishing that jig? Because I just all of a sudden set the hook, because with the chest cam, it looked as though I wasn't doing anything because you couldn't see my hands moving. So I'm dragging up the hill right now. I'm starting to get into that hard stuff that's right over the edge of the drop that I'm fishing. And I'm fishing shallow to deep right now. So I'm throwing out, sitting in shallow water, throwing out deep and dragging up the hill. And as I get to the edge of the rocks or whatever pebble I'm bumping up against, I typically will slow down or stop. And now I'm over top of the lip. Not as much resistance right now, and sitting on top of the drop, or on top of the ledge on the shelf. And that's it. Reel it in. See if I can see something that even looks like a bass on live scope. Maybe. Like I said, this has been one of a little fish spot the last few days. Made the cast too long. Drop it down. Yeah, I tell you, dude, Benya, when they hit, they typically will hit and come straight at you. So a lot of times you feel the hit and then your line just goes slack. And it's just like, hold on tight, reel as fast as you can, and set the hook. All right, so I got 2 looking at it right now. At least I think I just spooked them. my side scan on and scan them real quick. See if I can find them up on this thing. A lot of times this time of the night, and when they're getting ready to, in the middle of that transition, they will move up to the just over the edge, and you just can't see them when you scan off the shallow side of it. So I'm really close. I'm too close to it. Yes, that high-speed reel works really. This is only a 7-something to 1, a 7.2 to 1. But I love these Picasso tungsten football jigs because they got that light wire hook. It really doesn't take much to set the hook on them. You just pull tight and pull a little harder, and that's about it. You don't have to hammer. You don't have to slackline them. You don't have to Gerald Swindle them. Yeah, I don't think these are bass. I think these are bluegill sitting on top of this thing. You're right about the jig hook set. Tell you, the people that know me know that when I'm on a jig bite, which this is a really good jig lake anyway, but when I'm on a jig bite, I'm like a kid at Christmas. I cannot wait. Golly, it's so fun. And I know there's so many people that have zero confidence in a jig. I'm telling you, get out there, find out how to figure out how to find hard spots and hard bottom and drops and things like that. See, well, that's when you overrun the eye reel, is when you let it go slack after it's hit the water. But get out there and learn how to find those hard spots, those shell beds and drops and ledges and things like that, and hard points, and then just cast it out. Slowly reel it in. Play around with different colors: green pumpkin, black and blue, black and blue with green pumpkin trailer. I do all kinds of stuff, but I typically will, run black, blue, green pumpkin, and pumpkin are the colors that I use. This one that I've got right now is a combination of, I think it's got a little bit of green pumpkin, some regular pumpkin, and black is what I think it is. Of course, it's missing. You can see I've caught a ton of fish on it. Look at that thing. It's missing half its skirt. Zoom speed craw is a trailer. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that even remotely looks like a bass. I think they're all bluegill. A little high spot on this ledge that'll have one or two sitting on top of it. Right about here. I don't see them. Yeah, I know this lake way too good. Of course, I fish it multiple days a week.